I'm going to talk a little bit about the shape of the day in a minute, but I thought, first of all, I'd talk about the journey that we've come on, I think, since June in the Council in relation to housing. I think it's important to reflect how we've got here. When we were elected in May, one of our overarching themes was to work with people and to actually work with you and do things with you, not to you. And I think in housing, it's probably one of the places where it was most apparent that this had not happened for some time. There are other areas, for example, in planning. We were one of only 2 councils in the whole of London until very recently that allowed residents to actually come and speak about their concerns on planning applications. Another example, which was a particular issue in my ward, related to parks. People had very strong views about how we use our very valuable open space in parks. There's pressure on our parks, there's pressure from our local schools, there's pressure from private enterprises wanting to use the football pitches, etc. And there was a real friction there, and people were just not listened to. So we were really concerned about all of those issues, and I think the title that the tenants have chosen today for this conference, Moving Forward Together, is very apt, because that's exactly what we wish to do as an administration. And I think you'll hear from the speakers later and throughout the day about some of the things. And some of the things I can quite appreciate that you probably got lots of questions about and lots of anxieties about, with some of the things that you've heard, particularly in the last few recent weeks and days. So I'm hoping that you'll go away feeling revived and a bit more confident about what we're doing. So it's against that background that we hope to move forward. And I think I just want to reflect on my first meeting of the Borough Forum after I'd become Cabinet Member for Housing. I walked into a room and there was about 40 or 50 tenants and residents there around an enormous big table, so that I couldn't even read the nameplate of somebody at the other end of the table to know who it was that I was calling to ask a question or to make a comment. And I think people were not angry, but they were weary. I think they were weary of coming to meeting after meeting, time and time again, and not feeling that they were going away and getting anywhere, feeling that no progress had been made. And I'm hoping, and I think by the fact that we've had so much interest in the conference today, that people are feeling more optimistic and feeling that we are able to do things together and are able to listen to you and move forward. And one of the things that came up at that Borough Forum was a little voice, and the person is probably in the room, unless they're outside still registering, who said, "We want our conference back." So we said, and I said, yes, of course you can have your conference back. There haven't been one for 2 years. The last conference you had was an agenda largely set by the officers, and it was half a day, and there was not much tenant involvement. So as things rolled on over the summer, we had discussions and people saying, we want this at the conference and we want that at the conference. We said, well, hang on, it's your conference. Why don't you go away and organise the conference? You tell us what you want, and that's how we have got here today. But it's not been an easy journey, because it has taken hours of work and hours of planning from a very small and dedicated group of tenants who I want to thank now. It's normal to thank these people at the end of the event, at the end of the day, but I want to do it now because I know some people will be going off early and what have you. Hopefully you won't. Hopefully you'll be so engaged that you want to stay all day. But I do think it's important to put this on record, and I'd like to. I'm not going to ask you to stand up, but if you're in the room and I mention your name, if you put your hand up just to let people know who you are, that would be really appreciated. So I'd like to firstly thank Shirley Coupett. Thank you, Shirley. Ros O'Connell. Ros, are you in the room? I don't think Ros is in the room, but we should clap for him then. Ray Champion. Ray, well done, Ray. Thank you. Val Barker. You've already heard from him earlier, and you'll hear from him at the end of the meeting, and that's Anthony Wood and Kim Shearer. So thank you very much to that group. I'd also like to thank Daniel Miller, who is the officer. Is Daniel in the room? No, because he's a council officer and he's doing what council officers do and probably busy organising people outside. But I think that the tenants would not disagree with me. He's been absolutely fantastic at supporting them through this process. I think we should give him a round of applause as well. And finally, I think it's important to mention some of our contractors who have made a contribution to making today possible, and that's Mighty and Pinnacle. Both of them have got stands outside who you can go and talk to later. You might have varying opinions about the services that they offer, but they did help us put today together, so I think we should say thank you to them as well. Okay, so that's my little bit of just talking and thanking. I now want to talk very briefly about the outline of the day.